Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Welcome to Harnessing AI, a webinar series around Microsoft Teams rooms on Windows. And today I'm esteemed to be joined by Niki Van Der Perk from HP Poly. And also I will have a virtual guest, Michel Bouman, who unfortunately could not be here today, but he sent some really cool video that I'm going to show you. And let's dive right in. So when we're talking about AI, we're talking about AI in the modern workplace. And obviously, these symbols should be somewhat familiar for you. So you have your Microsoft Teams, you have your Copilot, and you have Microsoft Places. It's actually how how Microsoft designs the modern workplace with AI as the red thread in between. Just wanted to share you a bit of additional information because I think it's still very relevant, right? This is something called the hybrid work paradox, which basically means that they want the best of both worlds, right? They want to have the time to work remotely. They want to have the engagement of working remotely, but then at the same time they also want to connect with people in the office and people around them. So actually, how you build a digital strategy and how you use platforms like Microsoft Teams or Microsoft to actually connect different stakeholders in the organization is a key element of success and designing an equitable hybrid workplace. Second stat is something that still astounds me, right? So if we talk about global office spaces, and global office spaces in this case, we can look at 40%, 45% in Europe. 65% of those spaces are underutilized. Now, that's one thing, right? That's the big change, how we went from a pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID, if we can still use COVID, but it did change something in the world, right? And actually how now companies are trying to redesign their office spaces, seeing how they can lease, how they can change things. But basically, we're still going back predominantly into the same types of meeting spaces. And the one that really caught my attention, this one, is that only 15% of those spaces are video enabled. Imagine today I would be here in this webinar just talking to you. It could be a podcast, but it definitely would not be a webinar. So I think it's an interesting time for us as industry partners, but also there is still some room for improvement in building an equitable hybrid workplace. Now, Microsoft Teams glues it all together, right? It's a unified communications platform that does meetings, chat, calling, and enables collaboration. When we branch out, and this is where we are today, right? We're talking about Teams Rooms, which is the collaboration element within Microsoft that does the meeting space. But you also have Teams Phone and you have Teams Premium, which is additional features that you might have in your collaboration flow, all tied neatly together with Copilot. Now, if there is one person that knows a lot about Copilot and about converged communications, it is Michel Bouman. He could not be here, as I said in the beginning, but he did send his regards. And Michel, floor is yours.
Thanks so much for having me. My name is Michel Bouman. I have the privilege to lead the EMEA channel business for Teams and devices, which means that our team looks after the Teams Rooms business across the EMEA region. And that's such an exciting place to be in, especially now with so many features and co-pilots and agents all coming to this space. Teams Rooms has really become a multi-purpose device. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Before I do so, I just want to set the scene a little bit and take you on a little bit of a story of something that happened the other day. I ran into someone and it was quite early and I was like, "Are you okay?" And they were like, "I'm a little bit in a rush because I have to go to the office and traffic is horrendous at the moment." And I was like, "Can't you work from home?" And he was like, "No, because I only have 2 work from home days and I already had those on Monday and Tuesday. So I have to rush to the office and attend this meeting." And so I wished him a very nice day. And later that evening, I saw him again and I asked him, how did the morning go? And he was like, "It was quite good. Although I must say that I was a little bit stressed. I realized that I didn't book a meeting room. And so as I was stuck in traffic, I booked that room on the go from my phone. But then when I finally came to the office, I realized that the room had been declined. It was a room with a Teams room setup, which he knows how to use. It's that one-touch joining experience that we all come to love. But then he was forced to find a new room, and that new room didn't have all this advanced technology, and therefore he had to fiddle around with cables. So it took him a while to get his day started. And I asked him, was the meeting successful? Did it start on time? And he said it did, but all of my peers were actually working from home that day. And he isn't the only one that's experiencing that. 49% of the people who work from the office report that they don't actually get to see the people that matter to them. We're spending billions and billions of euros and pounds and dollars every year because of unproductive meetings. And also people don't really have an idea of how the office space is being used. And I think we all agree that flexible work, hybrid work, call it whatever you want to call it, is definitely here to stay. And that only increased, the pace of it only increased with the rise of artificial intelligence. And AI is not something that only a few people use. If we look at our own research, AI has come to work, and 75% of the people are currently using it at work already. And if you would ask them how many of those people are using commercial service, not too many people will raise their hand. Many of them are using free tools to do all this cool generative AI stuff. And that's actually a big security risk. And this is not just the younger generation. No, this is across generation, right? So whether you're Gen Z or a boomer, all of these people are bringing AI into work. And that's such a big security risk. And I think when we talk about Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot, that is something we need to fix right away. So what we've done is we brought Microsoft 365 Copilot chat in the Microsoft 365 experience, meaning that everyone now gets to use the latest models that are web grounded in a secure way, ensuring that you have the enterprise data protection, that you also have access to agents. Now, I'll tell you why that's relevant to rooms in just a second, but I want to ground us on the fact that AI is not just about technology, right? For me, AI is really about how we work and then also where we work. And that's where the AI-powered workplace and that storyline comes into play. It's really about how do you ensure that people get to meet each other at the right location, at the right time when it really matters to them, but also making sure that they have access to the latest technology to ensure that it's almost a frictionless experience. Again, you don't want to fiddle around with devices and cables and adapters, and it takes about 7 minutes to start those type of meetings. No, you want every meeting space to be an easy one-touch join experience. And then also you want to be able to provide insights to IT admins and building owners to show them what parts of the office are being used for what and in what scenarios, and really help them to give those insights to make better decisions on what to do with office space. And that's where Teams Rooms really comes into play. I said before, Teams Rooms is no longer just a meeting device. And I say that with all respect to the previous experience that we had. Again, we all come to love that one-touch join experience. But it now also integrates with Microsoft 365 Copilot. We now have Facilitator Agent available on Teams Rooms. I'll talk about more on that in a second as well. We have the integration of Microsoft Places. The story I told earlier, that could have been avoided if they used Microsoft Places, because Copilot and Places will nudge you and tell you, hey, you haven't booked a room yet. Would you like me to book a room for you? Also, it'll automatically rebook a room if that room has been declined. Again, making it so much more frictionless to go through your day. And we haven't even spoken about digital signage yet, but through our partners at Zoco and AppSpace, you can now bring digital signage into your Microsoft Teams rooms. Now let's talk a little bit about Microsoft 365 Copilot and how that plays into the Teams room story. Because if you've seen me speak before, you've always heard me talk about the three most important pillars in running a successful hybrid meeting. Number one is having good audio. If there's no audio, there's basically no meeting. The second one is being able to pick up nonverbal cues, because 80 to 90% of all of our communication is nonverbal. And then the third one is being able to recognize people. And I'll give you an example on why that is so important. Let's say we're having a meeting and there's 4 of us, and for some reason I can't join. And during the meeting, you're discussing the future of Project X. And someone asks, so what do you feel, how do you feel about Project X? And the first person says, you know what, I don't think we should go through with this. I think it's a horrible idea. The second person says, I love the idea. Let's double down on it and make it even bigger. Now, if after the meeting, I would go to the meeting transcript, or if I would ask Copilot what was discussed, what was the sentiment of Project X during the meeting, Copilot will actually say, conference room 1245 loved it and hated it at the same time. So now I have to go back, right, and re-listen to that whole meeting again to figure out who said what during the meeting, which is very inefficient. And that's why I'm happy that we have speaker recognition in Teams rooms available on Teams rooms on Windows to ensure that it'll say person X or person one said this about the meeting, and then Sven said this about the project. That's really going to help you. Now, if we look at some of the biggest concerns in meetings in general, there are three things that are very important that really leak a lot of energy during the meeting. Number one is people showing up late and having issues to be brought up to speed. The second one is no clear action point. And then the third one is about no notes being taken at all. As human beings, we simply can't multitask, even though not everyone will agree with that. But that's where the facilitator agent is going to help you. So how this works is you add the agent to your meeting, and then you start the meeting. Hopefully, you do have an agenda of that meeting. That always helps. But then during the meeting, you simply enable facilitator agent right then and there. And what facilitator agent will do is it will not only take notes of the stuff that you're saying. By the way, people will get notified. It will not only take notes of what people have said during the meeting, but it will also write down all of the follow-up tasks. And this is like you brought your own facilitator person into the meeting to help you to write down all of the notes. And it's still a co-pilot, right? So you stay in full control and you can add or take out certain things the co-pilot wrote down. And I'm happy to let you know that the facilitator agent is now available for Teams rooms on Windows in public preview. During the public preview, you will not need an M365 Copilot license, so everyone can start using this experience by simply toggling the private preview and adding the facilitator agent from the Pro Management Portal that comes with your Teams Rooms Pro license. Now, with that, I just want to say thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of the session, and now let me hand it back over to the team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michel. Very interesting to see how Copilot is evolving and how meeting spaces are taking shape. We're joined here by HP Poly today, so I have Niki Van Der Perk ready to share HP's view on the technology. So Niki, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sven, and also thanks to Virtual Michel to share these insights. I always like the way he presents and the way he shares this message, and especially those personal stories in there. So with that, what I'm going to do, so I'm going to talk about our solutions specifically for Microsoft Teams rooms, of course. But I want to make sure that we all know Poly has been acquired by HP 2 years ago already, so 2.5 years ago. But this brings a lot of opportunities for us within HP, and we have seen the evolution of boardrooms, and like you mentioned, Sven, that not all boardrooms have been enabled for video yet. We know this, and we have been seeing this the last couple of years. So there's such a big opportunity to video enable rooms, and there's a lot of offices being either redesigned or being built up from the ground. And we need to make sure that the adoption for video meetings and to when you're coming onto a video call or a Teams call, that you actually enable your video, because there's also an adoption opportunity for people to actually use video in their meetings. I see that on a daily basis that some people do not enable their video. I also always want to make sure that you can see the people in the eye, but also see hand contacts, verbal and non-verbal communication. That's key. So let me move forward with my slides. So our mission within HP, and specifically the Poly division, as I will call it, is to enrich that remote and in-person teams. So those combined teams, like they are in the same room together, making sure that people can be heard and seen clearly, and building trust by doing these video communications, because you can actually build up really good teams by using virtual communication before you ever have met each other face to face. This really helps to get to know people before you actually meet them. And we are trying with our equipment to make this as seamless as possible. The focus area on the video portfolio is to make sure that we have a future-rich and a scalable software but also the platform behind it. And the video and experiences, they need to be on the near end, but also on the far end, they need to be crystal clear. And needs to be simple to set up, very important, very easy to manage, both for small rooms, large rooms, all the combinations in there. And the quality and assurance that we do in these devices, that needs to be spot on. So we need to make sure that all of the devices we get out of the door, they are just quality proof. One of the other points, and this is really a big focus for us, is the sustainability part. And we want to make sure that the devices we provide to you as resellers and to the customers, that we want to make sure that they are sustainable. So seeing from our latest devices, we have increased the number of recycled plastics, metals, etc. inside the actual product itself. But also if you look at the packaging and also the bundling of products, we have basically gone for worldwide SKUs, as we call it. So one single part number for the whole world, basically. So that reduces the amount of specific part numbers for specific regions. And especially if you look at the packaging, there is as less air in those packaging as possible. So we can really reduce the actual footprint of the package. And if you look at the latest devices, we have removed all of the plastics out of our packaging. So complete paper packaging is really crucial for us. Looking at these kind of devices, the recyclable components in these devices, it's increasing, and the devices are made from those recycled plastics, but also you can recycle those devices if they end their lifetime at some point. You can make sure that these devices can be recycled. Looking at our complete certified for Microsoft Teams portfolio on the video side, because obviously we've got a bigger portfolio there, but on the video side, this is our current setup. And I will do a more deep dive on the PC side of things. But this is our complete portfolio where we have got our small room, medium rooms, and large room section, either for Windows devices, but also for Android. And if you look at the modular rooms, so you choose your own video, choose your own audio, etc., you can do those devices there. So you can collaborate effortlessly inside your room using the AI software in our devices. Hearing what matters, that's really important. Poly noise block AI technology, we've been pioneering in this section for years and years, using our legendary conference phones as the base, and later on providing that in our all-in-one bars, like you can see here on the right. Those noise block AI technology, we've been improving that continuously, even so far that we can do echo cancellation inside really bad audio treated rooms, like a lot of glass walls, concrete walls, hard surfaces. We make sure that those devices can be hearing the echo and removing that from the transmission of the audio. Acoustic fence technology, wind smart technology, active noise cancelling, all of those functionalities we put in all of our devices. One of the other things, seeing what matters. You want to look into a conference room, and these days we all got those all-in-one collaboration bars, which have got electronic cameras, so you can see complete room. So if you look at the right picture, you've got the perimeter off. That's basically the complete area what the camera would see. But you don't want to see all of the people walking that hallway. You want to see the people inside that meeting room, because otherwise it's just distraction. So getting that virtual parameter, you can set it up for your first time use, basically identifying where glass walls are, and then making sure that you just put the devices into group framing, for example, or speaker framing, or any of the other framing capabilities. I have got a video prepared, but I'm not going to share the audio for this one. I'm just going to talk through some innovations in this, because when doing a first time setup of this Director AI parameter, as we call it, you can now do that first time installation inside the room. So what I'm going to do is I'll move forward. Basically, this is an administrator setting. So as an end user, you will not touch this. But as an administrator, you want to make sure that your first time setup is that you can see what happens in the room and where you can set the parameter. So if you look at this side, then you can see the touch control, and then you can minimize or widen the area which you want to focus on. And in the screen itself, in the room, you can see those blue check boxes or the red crosses, making sure that people who are inside the meeting room, either if they are just 1 centimeter apart from the glass wall or not, they are captured because they are inside the meeting room and not outside. So all of these innovations, we are powering that with AI in our collaboration bars and in our video devices. And then, of course, the tracking of people inside meeting rooms, whether it's group framing as the standard, but you can also set up speaker framing. So focusing on that most important meeting person in that room. Setting up with people framing or composite, as we call it in Microsoft Teams language. We want to make sure that you see all of the people instead of the walls or ceilings, etc. And then with some of our devices, we can actually do presenter tracking and tracking of people when they're standing in front of the screen. But you want to make sure you see those presenters in your meetings. So as I mentioned before, Poly has been acquired by HP. This provides a lot of advantages for us. One of the big advantages is obviously we can have more control of the actual compute which you provide in your meeting rooms. And this is the G9 Plus, as we call it. That's the product name, the HP G9 Plus for our Microsoft Teams room on Windows. That's really the first iteration of what we can do within Poly interference, so to say, inside the HP product management side for those Microsoft Teams rooms. We really double down on the hardware development, but also on the software behind it to make things work, and making sure that you have one vendor for anything, for everything in your meeting rooms. Looking back at this G9 Plus, I will go a little bit deeper on how we're actually doing things. But you can see that you have that user interface for Microsoft Teams rooms, and you have that on the touch controller. Now you can say this touch controller, yeah, everybody's got a touch controller, right? But we do things differently. This touch controller, you can use this as a Teams room panel or Teams panel on the outside for scheduling your meetings and making sure that you reserve the meetings from there. You can use it on Android-based appliances, and that same device, the same part number, you can also use it as a Microsoft Teams room on Windows controller. So in here you see that we've designed this for simplicity. Again, the packaging is as slim as possible, but we also made it crystal clear how you can actually set up this device. We've made color-coded ports, also the cables are color-coded, and you see that you can do everything from that TC10. You can see that on the right. You do not need a mouse and keyboard. And for an installation perspective, this is critical because you don't always want to plug in a mouse or keyboard inside your PC, which may be already installed behind the screen, for example. Looking at those color-coded connections, here you see the 4 colors which we've added. The purple one, I get on that later. But first of all, from the right, we've got HDMI ingest inside our device directly. So this is the first time we've done this because on a PC side, this is not common to have HDMI content ingest inside your PC directly. But we've done this upon large request. The blue bar, the super speed USB-C device, it can power cameras up to 15 watts to have that connection there. And then we've got a red connection for either video, but also for control to connect with a display or an interactive whiteboard, for example. Setting this up allows you to have that alt display port connection. And then the purple one, it's the one which I'm going to dive a bit deeper on. That's actually providing power over Ethernet out to the touch controller. Just let us sink that in again. So we're providing an additional network port which provides PoE connection to that touch controller. So you've got already a network connection which is going to the corporate network. This PoE purple cable connection, the network connection, this is separate from that. So there are 2 separate network interface cards in there. Getting that single touch controller, you can directly plug that in with the color-coded cable, and you can use, for example, a 10-meter connection on there, directly connected. But if you want to have multiple touch controllers on Windows, you can do that. You can have maximum of 4 TC10s, 4 touch controllers connected to a switch, a local PoE switch, which provides a number of wattage per port, and connect that specific switch to that purple connection. And then you're good to go. You will have up to 4 connections of touch controllers inside your meeting room. Think of U-shaped tables or large conference rooms where you want to allow multiple people to come off mute to say something, for example. And this is really a critical part. Choosing the room configuration is always critical, of course. So every room is different. If you have a smaller room, you don't need that large capability of panning and zooming in 12 times for your people to be recognized. You can use just a small all-in-one collaboration bar like the Studio V12 in this case, which we just announced, to make sure that all of your people can be seen and heard clearly in those smaller meeting rooms with a wide angle field of view. But if you need a larger room, if you want to make sure that you have got multiple cameras, for example, if you're doing Microsoft Teams rooms on Windows, you can have up to 4 cameras connected at the same time, but also streamed simultaneously at the same time. Having a good example I always give is a classroom setup. You want to make sure that your presenter who's standing in front of the screen is not being captured like this, seeing the back of his head basically. So you want to make sure there's one audience camera and one presenter camera in the back of the room, which maybe follows the presenter at all times when they're in the designated area. So clear example of that, using the Studio V52, front of the room, audience camera, maybe also the speaker bar and the microphone pickup. And then the Studio E60 all the way at the back, set up with the presenter tracking area, focusing on the actual teacher or the actual presenter in that room. And having those multiple video streams, the multiple camera sources streamed into the Microsoft Teams room on Windows at the same time. And you as a client, you as an end user on your PC-based Teams client, you can just choose what you want to see. You want to focus on the presenter, you want to focus on the audience, or you want to see both cameras at the same time in your one window. That is a critical part. Now, all of this is good, but from an administration perspective, you want to make sure you can actually manage all of those devices. If you've got 50 rooms or 100 rooms or even 20 rooms, you want to make sure that you are updated with your devices. And you want to make sure that your camera controls are in these Microsoft Teams rooms on Windows. With PolyLens, which is our management software, which it's a cloud-based application, we can also have a PolyLens room application. This is by default installed in our HP G9 Plus, and you need to connect it via a very easy onboarding process to PolyLens. And then you can manage all of the devices like you see on the left picture. You can see there's the G9 Plus, but it's connected with the Studio R30, a Studio E70, and 2 TC10s, where you can see the serial numbers. You can see the actual software of these devices, and you can push policies so you can make sure that all of your devices are running the company certified software, for example. Right, then I want to focus in on one part. I think it's quite clear and quite critical, and I hope everybody's heard of this, but Windows 10 Microsoft Teams room devices, they will lose support after October 14, 2025, which is a few months from now, about 6 months. So this is critical, and you need to make sure that you've upgraded your devices. If you haven't yet already, you need to upgrade those devices to get Windows 11 NTR on Windows. So with our HP devices, we have been shipping with Windows 11 IoT since November 2023. So there shouldn't be an excuse to not have upgraded your Windows or your meeting rooms. But I want to make sure I get this message out there to make sure that everybody knows here. And Sven and team can, of course, help with this upgrades. I'm going to talk just 1 or 2 slides on the Studio X devices which we have. Those are the Android-based devices which you have. And those are, when I say Android-based devices, these are all-in-one collaboration bars. So they don't need a specific compute. They have got that in there. It's a somewhat different approach, and there are future limitations on the Android side, which sometimes are capable on Windows-based devices. but I do want to make sure that we call these out, because for some of the rooms we have, we can use the Studio X instead of maybe a Microsoft Teams rooms on Windows. And Studio G62s are modular versions, so basically a PC, but then on Android. So these are running the same software as our Studio X devices, but then in a more modular approach, where we can have network connectivity to cameras and microphones, for example. And that last part, which I mentioned, I think that's a really critical part. We call this Poly Studio Net, and we only do this on the Android side today. We are going to leverage our Studio V series, and that's an important part, to have this same implementation where we can use multiple cameras at some point, but connect those devices to the network. So this can be a quite complex scenario or complex picture, but let me break it down for a second. So we're using the Studio G62 as the main compute unit. You've got two network ports on that, one corporate network and one local LAN network, or we call that Poly Studio Net. On that Poly Studio Net, you basically connect all of your peripherals. You see several microphones, you see the Studio E70 in the top, you see a Studio E60 on the bottom, and you can see a Studio E360 on the table. So those devices, those cameras, they are working like you can manually switch between the E70 and Studio E60 today. The Studio E360, that's pending availability, will be later on in 2026 available, but we're focusing on the Studio E70 and Studio E60 for now. So those cameras are via network cables connected to your device, to your Microsoft Teams room on Android, which makes that you can have more flexible installation of your devices. So having the codec in the front of the room and 20 meters inside the meeting room, or the classroom, you can put up your Studio E60 and still have cables left. So the flexibility of these setups, this is far more flexible than just USB connections, which sometimes have a challenge with limits, so to say. All right, this completes our next generation portfolio, and I want to call it out. So you see that all-in-one video bars, which I just talked about, the Studio X range, which is all-in-one devices for small, medium, and large rooms. Then you've got your USB video bars, and we call that the Studio V series. Studio V, it basically stands for the premium video bars. We've got currently the V12, V52, and V72, small, medium, and large rooms again. And then when you look at the PC-based devices, it's our G9 Plus, which is leading there, with a device which can be set up like the V52 or V72. V32 is actually coming into 2026. So for your small rooms, I would suggest using the V12. And then modular room for Android, you can use a G62 with a E70 or the Studio E60, for example. One of the things which we announced at ISE, and I'm going to talk especially about the second part, Android 13. On the Android side, this has been, or the Microsoft Teams rooms on Android side, has been quite a critical part. The certification of a lot of devices under Android 10, for example, ends in this September 2025. During ISE, we announced that we will support Android 13 to our next generation of video devices. So all of the Android devices which you see here are certified following those Microsoft Teams certification rules. Then PolyLens Pro, it's basically our poly management solution, which provides a lot of remote access sites, but also a lot of insight from our devices. People counting inside the room and providing that to your own Power BI, to your own reporting chains, etc. You can use that within PolyLens Pro for rooms. So in here you see a small example, and you can also use APIs to create tickets to ServiceNow, for example. You can integrate your Office 365 calendar to also see your bring your own device rooms and see the calendars for that and how they're actually used from a time-to-time perspective. Lastly, I will just do a sort of a shout out to our promotions, and we've got an enhanced trade-in program to make sure that whenever you've got old Windows devices, for example, like I mentioned before, you've got Windows 10 MTR on Windows, there is a trade-in program which we provide. So sign into our partner portal or contact any of the TD SYNNEX team to make sure that you know about these trade-in or trade-up programs. They can absolutely help you for this one. And with that, that's my last slide. So I want to thank you for your time here. Sven, over to you.
Right. Thank you, Niki. I'll remember Purple Connection. It stood out. Now, good. Thank you. Very good overview of the portfolio, and obviously very versatile from Windows all the way to Android. For those of you that want to know more about Windows or Android, what the different flavors are, where the roadmap is, please know that we can help you with that, and we can advise you. So just to wrap it up, and I want to already thank you, Niki, for your time. Thank you, virtual Michel Bouman, and thank you everybody for joining. But in the last 2 minutes of this webinar, I just want to highlight some things around TD SYNNEX Maverick. You know, we are a value-added distributor for collaboration, digital signage, and unified communications. What does it mean to be platform first? Well, we build our solutions on top of a platform. We help our customers define solutions based upon, you know, a platform view. Customer is centrally. Now, two things I want to highlight here is one, TD SYNNEX. We're talking about the hardware today, so we're talking about, you know, the solutions that go into meeting spaces, collaboration spaces. These need licenses. We also help you with the licenses. So please reach out if you have any questions about becoming an MSP or a CSP. Within the wider TD SYNNEX, we have a lot of expertise to help you with that. But if we look at Maverick, you know, we offer you the edge of the platform, if I can call it like that. And we've seen a very, very versatile portfolio from HP Poly. But if you think about things like signature roofs where you need 21:9 displays, we have you covered. If you want to build a 138-inch LED display in your big conference room, Maverick can help you aggregate those solutions. So every component that is needed to build the full solution, we can help and advise you with. And not only that hardware, right? Because where does a solution end and where does it begin? Services are a big part of building a solution fit for market. Since this is a webinar series, I'm going to take the liberty to only go one at a time. So the first one I want to highlight on is professional services. So we have a TD SYNNEX training academy for your employees or for yourself if you want to know more about Microsoft Teams rooms. We're running quite a bit of events and expert training sessions in the coming months with Microsoft. And also we have solution centers across Europe. I think we have 13 big solution centers. There's a lot of HP in those as well. So if you want to see the new V12, if you want to see the features around perimeter, you know, just feel free to reach out. And I've made it easy for you. So here's a QR code. It will give you a form. You just fill in the form. I think it's 5 questions, should take you 45 seconds. If not, you can do it sooner if you're an expert in Microsoft Forms, which is really easy, actually. But please reach out and we will gladly help you on your way to success with Microsoft Teams rooms. And don't forget to subscribe for the next webinars because we've tackled HP today. We've seen a lot of dynamics around end of life of Windows, how we can help and support, how the portfolio is changing. Next week, we'll learn a bit more. And until then, thank you for your time and let's keep in touch. Bye.